Welcome to the Grumpy Monkey Garage channel. We've got ourselves a 2000 Jeep Grand Cherokee in the shop today with a complaint of a transmission leak. So that's going to lead us to be changing a transmission cooler inside the radiator. This will work for all WJs 99 through 04. Let's get started. Alright, so when you open the hood, which I'm assuming you know how to do if you're going to take on this task, you're going to find, other than this fun guitar string business here, this is the radiator right here in the front. You locate it by the radiator cap and the upper radiator hose. And to take this out, we're going to be removing pretty much most of the front end here to get this thing out. But what you want to start with is removing all this. Most of them will not have these. This will only be if a body shop did a wonderful job repairing it. Next thing you want to do is you want to take this hose off. You just pull it, it comes right off. You stick it up in here so it doesn't leak everywhere. It's a little tech tip of the day. Next you're going to take this fan out, and to take the fan out, down in here we have some wires we need to disconnect. Now normally there is a connector here between these wires, but it is long gone now and is rotted away. But normally there's a connector, you just push it and pull it and it disconnects. So I'll do that, and I'll disconnect this upper radiator hose, and we'll get back to you in just a second. It's important to use a drain pan, otherwise you'll spill antifreeze all over the shop and end up killing the poor shop cat. We don't want to do that. Our upper radiator hose is here on this left side, and you'll see a screw. Some of them will have a pinch clamp. You take that off and they slide it back. And then have someone who doesn't care if they get dirty take the hose off, because this is where things get gross.
Thanks, Al.
Nice. There you go. Now we get to do the fun business of disconnecting those sketchy wires I just told you about. Like I said, most of them will have a plug that you can just disconnect. But not this one. This one's fun. Alright, I'm going to get these wires here. Just shove him up out of the way. Good plan. Thank you. There we go.
The others.
Shove him over there. Shoving him out of the way will prevent you from getting peed on the whole time you're disconnecting stuff. There we go. Alright, those wires are out. And you can just lift your radiator fan out once you have the hose out and the wires disconnected. Do not store a radiator fan flat on the ground. You have to lean it up against something so it stays vertical. So I'm going to lean it up against this cart we've got here. You store it flat on the ground, what will happen is all the fluid in the hydraulic fan will go to one side and you can damage it. This being an electric fan, it's not that big of a deal, but just as good practice, let's just set them up like that. Now if you see here, this is the radiator with all the stuff out of the way. This long, flat metal piece here is our radiator. And to get this fun friend out, we're going to have to disconnect 1,000 different bolts and these hoses here, which is why we're replacing this radiator. If you can see this fitting down here on the bottom, it's made of brass. Can you see this fitting right here? Yeah. That fitting right there, this guy, was peeing transmission fluid all over the place, and it's not from the line itself, it's from this little fitting washer back here, which is part of the radiator. So we're going to be replacing it because of that. So the next step to do is get this air box out, this Jeep air box. You just take off this screw right here. And you undo the 5,000 wonderful Chrysler clips holding this blasted thing in. So in the back one, it's always fun to get to. Once you do that, you can just pull the stupid thing off, toss it aside. Pull this guy out, toss it aside. Now some of these that haven't been to a body shop will have bolts holding them in. But in all cases, it's just a whole lot of wiggling and they'll come out. Now that we've got some room here, we're going to disconnect this upper line going to the transmission and the lower line going to a transmission. So we're going to do that now. Yes, the part of the radiator that drains the fluid right here is called a petcock. Petcock. Petcock.
Petcock.
No lie, that is its official title. That little plastic tab right there is called a petcock. And how that works is you twist it and it sprays fluid all over the place. Not like it's supposed to. It's supposed to just drain it out, but it never goes that way. So make sure you have lots of drain pans and cleanup material. As I said before, antifreeze is poisonous. Do not let your animals get near it. Don't get it in your mouth. Don't let your kids play in it, yada, yada, yada. The do not consume label applies. We'll be back. All right, so now we're going to be taking these transmission lines off. So what you do is you get yourself a big, giant, ridiculous wrench because you're going to need the leverage. Come under here and you just twist it, lefty-loosey. And that's from the perspective of the driver, not you. You kind of have to fight with these lines. They never want to go the way they're supposed to. There we go. Nope, still not close enough. Come on, baby. And while we're up here, you'll notice the wild apprentice in its natural habitat trying to find
petcock.
Gotta find your petcock. Can't lose your petcock, kids. Kinda need that.
There it is. Petcock.
When you're disconnecting these transmission lines, what you want to do is you want to unscrew them completely and pull them away from the radiator because they're going to be full of transmission fluid. In this particular case, because it was leaking transmission fluid, there's no transmission fluid in there for it to leak, but on a normal application, it would just puke fluid everywhere. So now I'm going to get the lower one, but it's the same procedure, so you don't need to see that. It's just a matter of getting this in there and twisting it off. Where's our pliers, Steve?
Put them up there.
Try that. Go under the sway bar. There you go. Now turn it. Yep. There you go. Yep. It's gonna come flying out with the force of the fountains of Bellagio, so beware. Told you.
Just take it all the way out.
Oh yeah. Radiator's coming out. It's gonna pee everywhere. Make sure you catch it in the drain pan. Or in your armpit. That counts. Sounds like you caught it. That's good.
More or less. Watch out, don't get it in your eyes, because this sucks.
Watch out, don't get it in your eyes, because this sucks.
There we go.
Alright, well I'll keep monitoring that while he goes and gets some shop towels and cleans off from his unprovoked shower. That was interesting. So what we're doing now that we've got all the fluids draining out and our apprentice has taken an antifreeze shower, is we're going to take this cross member off to get this radiator disconnected. So it's a couple 10mm bolts. You can use a regular wrench, but I don't have time for that. Somebody cross-threaded these in here. Now we have to take out these Torx bits. They look like a T20, but I'll get back to you with the correct size in just a second. So here we have our Torx bits. They're T30s. See, that right there was 45 minutes by hand. Forget that. You got one on the other side too. They match. I'm gonna take this thing out, and she's free. All right, now our radiator is just chilling here. Just gonna take some dikes out, and we'll cut that and that, and this thing will be ready to go. So once you have your cross member out of the way, it's really all you need. The radiator's sitting right here. There are usually some bolts that go through here. Right here. There's a bolt that usually goes through, but somebody has put a zip tie holding the front end of this truck on. When you come to the other side, oh, there is a bolt in this side. All right. Nope, never mind. There's just the bolt carrier. So once you get that off, pretty much your radiator's free at that point. Now, step 2, after you've got everything disconnected, you just pull it straight out.
Water's still pulling.
And as you're pulling it out, you're going to find all the things you forgot to disconnect. And either you'll work around them or you'll take the time to disconnect them.
There we go.
side of the
I mean, let's go on this straight now.
Now this little mini radiator in front is for your air conditioning, so make sure you don't poke a hole in that or you won't have air conditioning. And that's unpleasant. Customers don't tend to like that very much.
Oh, come on!
Yeah, I got it.
The low radiator goes to some puke.
Of course it does. Why not?
Before we cable.
Ta-da! One radiator. Let's go put it triumphant in the driveway and take a look at why it failed. Alright, so now we need to confirm our repair, make sure we were correct. Of course, this is a little far, but it's easier to show you outside of the car. So how we knew this was bad was, see this lower transmission fitting right here? There's transmission fluid puking out of this fitting. And it was not coming out of the line, it's coming out of right here. And you can see it's just made a mess everywhere, but it's not coming out of this upper one, it's right here. So this radiator is defective. So you take it back to your parts store when they're defective, show them how it failed. They'll usually give you another one. They might charge you, it's just up to your local parts store's decision on that one. But this is definitely our problem, this is definitely our leak, so we're gonna go ahead and put the new one in and this Jeep should be fine. Once you open your new parts, make sure they look like your old parts before you install them. I've done this before where the radiator will be slightly different and it was just a mismanufactured part, I guess, or they didn't do it right. One of my favorite ways to test that is actually to take the radiator cap off.
Oh, nope.
And go ahead and take it off. If it fits on here, you've got a good chance that it's going to work. Of course, also just looking at them and making sure they look the same is another good way to test that theory. Now, reinstallation is a lot harder than the,
Disassembling.
well, we won't call it disassembly. We'll call that a, what do you call that phase where you're like building a house? Demolition. We'll call that the demolition stage because of how hilariously bad that went. We gotta work around the friend the power steering pump. Kind of have to work around everything, and nothing wants to play nice. If you experience the same and it just refuses, it's just normal. This thing, there's something up here. Something's in the way.
Probably this.
This needs to be held out of the way. Is there any way to get your hand under there? Not without crushing your fingers off. So we need that to stay up without poking a hole in that because that's the air conditioning. And this guy right here was in the way too, so we're gonna relocate him.
I should be able to hold it right here.
Can you keep your fingertips there without me crushing them, putting this back in?
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this guy, well, we'll just shove you under here, how about that? Just stay out of the way. All right. We gotta get this guy in here. We've wrestled our fun friend in there now. You're gonna have to take this little weather stripping off that holds onto there and basically just wiggle it in there until it gives up. Helpful to have someone on the bottom side as well while you do this kind of work. So now that it's in there, lining it up on its pegs is very fun. They're very small. They're little square little inlets on the bottom the radiator has to squish into. And they, well, most of the time they don't want to line up. Have any left? Yep, this one just went in. What about our other side there?
It's almost there.
Yep, is it being a jerk?
Yes, because the
Typical.
other one's still in there.
Huh?
The other one's still in there.
The other one actually broke off?
Yep, broke off in there.
Nice. All right, well. Here we go.
It's out. Yep, down in there.
And they look like they're in. All right, once you get to this step, it's in. What you want to do now is start at the bottom, hooking up hoses. Yeah, there's nice. But there's your problem, lady. All right, so now that you got it all back in there, hook your hoses up from the bottom to the top. And the only reason you want to do that is you can actually get a clear reach through there. When you start hooking up all the hoses on top first, you got them in the way to get the bottom one. So start at the bottom, go to the top. So we're going to start with this lower transmission line, which is the shorter one. If you ever forget, the shorter one goes to the bottom. And that's just kind of how they roll. It's kind of a Chrysler thing. It does not apply to other brands as far as I know. Well, actually, hell, it's probably just a random thing. But on this particular model, the short one is the bottom one. I'm just going to screw these back on. Let's start with this guy so you can see it. I know I just said start at the bottom and work your way to the top. This one's just for show. Just kind of hold that on there. Like that. There we go. That's one. And you'll hook them up like that. And of course, the lower radiator hose just slides on. You tighten the clamp. We're going to do that, and we'll be back to you in just a second. All right, so now that we've got the radiator back in and the 3 lower hoses connected, the 2 transmission lines and the lower radiator hose, leave the upper one off for now because you have to put the fan in first. You have to align these bolts for the cross member. Now, they're never going to want to line up properly, especially if the vehicle's been in a wreck. So what you do is you take yourself a small screwdriver and you force the holes to align with the small screwdriver so you can just put them in by hand to avoid cross-threading. See your tech tip 2.0 of the day. That and the hose. Man, these people are getting some free entertainment right here. So that's one end, and it'll stay there. If it doesn't, you can always move it around with the other hole and get the other bolts lined up. Roman, he'll do the other side and demonstrate for you. Once you get them started by hand, you got a couple threads on. All right, once you get them started by hand, you can get your air tools back out if you have them. If you don't, you get yourself a ratchet and wrench and you go to town. I got Steve. Going stuff. There we go. Good stuff. Now that you got the cross member in, we're going to put the fan in. We'll get to that in just a second. All right, guys, so now what we're going to do is we're going to be putting our air box back in now that we've got the radiator back in. We need to put the air box back in before we put the fan in. So let's go ahead and put that in. It disassembles into 2 pieces, this half and this half. Put this part in first, so go ahead and put that in. You just got to move this crap out of the way and kind of snake it up to the front here. And it's going to fight you, but it's a Chrysler product. What do you expect? And then we put our air box in. Watch that vacuum line back here to the windshield wipers. There we go. Now that it's in, you can get the top part, which Roman will get that. Put your air filter in. Make sure it's not all disgusting. If it looks like you just wiped your ass with it, replace it. Which this one looks okay. We recently replaced it. So orange. I'm gonna put this thing back on. Now remember, you only have to loosen and tighten the outer screw. If you do the inner one, you're just wasting your time. Once you get it all centered back on here, which it is not, it's being a pain in the ass. There we go. You just take these clips, push down, they're tight. This one back here is fun to get to. You kind of have to lean over the engine, so make sure it's cold when you do this. Of course, if you just replace the radiator, it's cold. Stopped. Good. Tighten that one up, this one. Oh, it's broken?
Broken.
No, nope, there you go.
No, that's not grabbing.
Nice. You got 3 out of 4. 20-year-old Chrysler product. Things just break. I have good rapport with this customer though, so I'm sure they are not going to mind. They just need to drive. Once you tighten that screw up, now you don't need to kill it. You're not, strangling the damn thing, but you don't want it to fall off while you're going down the road either, because that's unpleasant. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put the radiator fan back in. This is our friend right here. And this is my favorite thing to install. This is going to be fun. So what you want to do is you want to take it, and the caution fan deal is where you can read it. So don't put this shit in backwards, where you're like, Nafo Nukunakan, or whatever the hell that says upside down.
Nafo Nukunakan.
A terrible rendition. Put this in here. Wiggle it past all the crap in the way. Once you get it down in there, like that, it'll firmly fit onto the radiator. Just like that. And now you got to deal with wires. I'll deal with wires since you electrocuted yourself last time.
No, I didn't.
Oh yeah, you
I
did.
was slightly electrocuted myself.
How's our lighting?
Pretty good.
That's good stuff. Now our wires. Oh, why are they always fun like this? Why can't they ever be, easy? Like, Toyotas. Toyotas are easy. But this guy, absolutely not. So this guy, we got to kind of like make it work. Of course, if you're doing this with a regular connection, it's not this hard. But because this one is broken, I'm having to get kind of creative with it. There we go. That's hooked up. I'll show you the finished product. Now the connections are back together. That's bueno. All right, now we can hook up our upper radiator hose, which is this guy right here, which we're missing the clamp for. We got to remember where we put that. On top of the... There it is. Take our friend the hose. And it went under here, didn't it?
Yes, it did. It's gonna be a dick.
Every time. Once you get that on there, you just put it up on here. This guy, you get a flathead. You give us some beans.
What's wrong?
Yeah, did you learn your left from your rights by now?
No. I've hit myself in the head a few too many times. Now this one you don't want to come off.
Yeah, you don't want that guy coming off. If that comes off, a big cloud of white smoke scares the crap out of the driver, and they'll be back in 2 days. Ask us how we know that. All right, so we got this one on. Plug this hose back in, that hose that we shoved up in the roof earlier so it didn't drip everywhere. And they, I'm starting to see why they put those bungee cords on here. Because all the clips are gone. So I guess we'll just be creative with that. And this guy. Poof. Now we have installed the radiator. It's all back together. Wiring's all hooked up. Air box is in. We need to fill this thing up with fluid, and this thing's ready to crank. We'll be right back with some fluid. So what we're doing right now is we're getting our spill-free funnel, which we'll have to do a review on because I love this thing. This thing is fantastic. But I'll do a review. That's a video for another day. Right now we're just trying to find the fitting that fits Jeep. I know it's one of these. Oh, there you go. Use that one. That one looked like it worked.
That's not flush.
Hold on. Gotta give it. Put it in there.
That doesn't fit on there. None of these fit on there.
I'll get creative. Of course, they can't make it for every single car, so sometimes you kind of just have to make do. Oh, this one's gonna work. All right, go get us some coolant and some transmission fluid. Is that full of water or coolant?
No idea.
Let's have a look. If it's sealed, it's full of antifreeze.
It's not sealed.
We got water or coolant in it.
Coolant.
Coolant? Nope. We'll get an empty one. Fill this thing up with water. See, anytime you can't find anything, it's either in your ass or it's the last place you put it, which are totally helpful when you're looking for something. Good enough, let it bleed down in there. Make sure it's not peeing out all over the floor.
We hear it.
Might. Unless it's just a little drip from the hose. And if you want your water to go down faster, you can do a little trick we got here. You can grab your upper radiator hose right here, and you squeeze it, and look, you can make the volcano erupt. How that works is it's just bleeding all the air out and getting all coolant down in there. There you go, add some more. Now this radiator takes, I believe it's 4 gallons. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure you will. But it takes a lot of fluid. We're just running water because where we live, it's not going to get below freezing probably at all, but
Anytime soon.
it's also got a lot of rust in there, as you saw earlier when we took that radiator out, so we're going to do a flush in a month or so. Do we have any leaks?
So I'm checking.
I see no major leaks. Yeah, that's what came out of it. Looks about like Shrek snot. No leaks at the hoses?
I don't think
Bueno.
here.
What's that?
Nothing at the lower one.
Good. Well, there's nothing at the upper one because the upper one's brand new. Not that that excuses. All right, let's pour some more in there. Just a little bit. It looks like it's finally starting to relax a little bit.
Then we have to run it.
We have to put transmission fluid in it too. We're fixing the transmission leak. All right, now if you need to add transmission fluid to your Jeep transmission, you got 2 sticks here. One's idiot-proof labeled engine oil, which I wonder what that means is in there. And this other one with the gear on it is your transmission. I'm gonna pull that one out. And there is a, oh, somebody overfilled it before we did this, so must have been the customer. So we'll run it and see what the true level is. Oh God, there we go. Actually, it's overfilled on transmission fluid. The customer must have drove it in here like that, Roman, so we don't have to put any transmission fluid
It
in
was
there.
leaking everywhere.
Oh yeah, it was. But they must have poured a whole bunch in there to make up for the leak to drive it in. Yes, that's right. They drove it in like this, with it pouring gallons of fluid out. They drove it in like this. Huh. Oh well. All right, I guess we need to go get keys, run it, and we'll show you how to bleed out the radiator. Now what we want to do is we want to check the vehicle for leaks. But we also want to run it all the way up to temperature so that when the thermostat opens, all the air bubbles are going to come to the surface and come out of this funnel. So you're going to see lots and lots of bubbles. That's good. What you don't want to see is water all over the floor. That means you didn't tighten the hose all the way or you have another leak somewhere and, well, who knows. But we'll see what happens in this situation. Roman, do we have leaks down below?
No leak here, no leak there. There's one at the... Nothing at the old radiator hose. I can't tell about the transmission lines.
Well, the transmission was leaking so bad before it was flooding the floor. So,
I'm gonna guess it's a no then.
well, I'm hoping so. So if you want to come take a look at the dashboard. What we want to do is we want to see this needle get to the middle at 210 and stay there. We don't want it to move past it. We don't want it to not reach there. We want it to get there and stay there. That means that we're at temperature, we're running good, everything's functioning correctly in the cooling system. And well, it prevents comebacks. You don't want your customer coming back the next day, my car overheated. Don't want that. It's my best customer voice. Did you like that? I'm sure she works at McDonald's. Is it drinking some more water?
It's drinking some more, but not enough for me to add yet.
Good stuff. That's a good sign. If you're constantly adding water, you're losing it somewhere. If you can't see any leaks up front, you need to check your tailpipe. If you have white smoke coming out your tailpipe, your engine is burning the coolant you're adding. That's no bueno. That's a very expensive fix most of the time. Usually a head gasket is what most people will tell you, but I've also seen working for BMW that it'll just straight up crack the block and coolant will go everywhere and it'll just burn up inside there. That's really expensive. Now, dear viewers, since we're testing for a transmission leak, with my foot on the brake and the e-brake on, I'm going to run this thing through here. So just moving from park, reverse, neutral to drive, like that. And then back to park. In.
Nope.
How about now?
Nothing.
How about now?
Still nothing.
Well, I think I will call that fixed. Before it was taking a massive dump. How's our water level? Is all the bubbles up?
Not yet. Still a lot more coming up.
All right, we'll get the water for a few more minutes. Well, I call that fixed though, because before, as soon as you put it into reverse, it would just poof all over the place. It was a horrible leak. And now, it's not doing it. I call it fixed. It's one win today. All right, viewers, when you test drive a car, always wear your seatbelt because, you know, dying sucks. So we just got out and checked it, just letting it idle here in the shop. We're going to roll it back and forth a few times, see if it pees on itself. It wasn't. So let's go take it on a test drive. You know, for running this transmission out of fluid twice, it runs pretty good. I'm confident in our install though. Checked it twice, it wasn't peeing. Usually I recommend check it 3 or 4 more times. But I can see the driveway there. We haven't made any driplets, so let's take it for a test drive and see what happens. All right, now on your test drive, you want to be really gentle after you've done transmission work. Don't gun it, because if you gun it, you're going to break stuff. So here's first gear, here's second gear. 200,000 mile Chrysler. I expected it to be a little bit of a hard shift, but that was a little ridiculous. So you want to just drive it real easy, go slow. We're checking for leaks, remember, so watch the rearview mirrors and whatnot. Look for little driplets on the ground. I don't see any right now. It appears to be running okay. So we'll take the long test drive. We'll go out here on the street. And I test drive just in the neighborhood. You know, if I'm at the customer's house, I'll just drive around the block. And then I'll check it again, and then I might take it out on the regular road. But, you know, don't just go drive it, 70 miles an hour right off the bat. You need to trust your repair first and verify. So that's what we're doing right now, is we're just going to go real slow. I mean, I'm doing about 30. Not going that fast. Transmission feels good. Should be downshift in a second. There it goes. Okay, all right. So I don't see any driplets still. I'm going to check the fluid when we get down to this cul-de-sac, and we'll see where we are on fluid.